It begins with the soft creak of a wooden chest, your thumb following the outline of a face in a faded photo, the paper whispering under your fingertips. What stories survive in our drawers? What small object stitches together a family across oceans?
Welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm Samnang Bradley, and today we're opening envelopes and albums that families keep close. With me is my co-host Rachana, and we're joined by two guests who work with family papers every day. Dr. Lena Chea, an oral historian who works with Khmer Diaspora communities, and Von Bofon, a community archivist and photographer who runs local digitization clinics.
Hello, everyone. Let's unpack that. The torn edges, the little notes tucked into books. This matters culturally because these objects are not just memorabilia. They're threads of memory and identity.
Thank you both. I'm glad to be here. In my work, I see letters and photos performing everyday acts of care. A brief note to say, I am well, a recipe written on a torn receipt, a child's drawing saved and folded into a wallet. Each object carries social cues, how people address each other, expected duties, intimate jokes, and those cues teach us about family life before and after migration.
And from the community clinics, I hear practical things. People asking, how do I scan this without damaging it? Or will my grandchildren understand this handwriting? So we try to make the technical simple and the ethical central.
Today, we'll move through short histories of letter writing and keepsakes in Khmer households, read an anonymized letter with context, talk about albums and memory boxes, and finish with ethical digitization and how to ask elders about objects with care. Along the way, we'll share simple steps you can try at home.
To start, a brief history. In villages, letters were often folded small, carried on market days, or handed with a small offering. The form, how someone folds a note, or the paper they choose, speaks to formality, intimacy, or urgency. That pattern matters because the physical act of folding and tucking is part of the message.
Anthropologically speaking, material forms encode relationships. A woman saving a son's school certificate, a neighbor keeping a bus ticket from a visit. These are small rituals of witness. For many in the diaspora, these items become portable altars. A ribbon, a prayer card, a recipe slip that recreates the taste of home abroad.
And photographs, whether studio portraits, wedding snapshots, or quick street photos, become anchors. People often preserve the backs of photos because the handwriting there names places and relatives. When we digitize, we always ask to capture the back too. The metadata begins there.
Let's ground that with a concrete moment. Lena, you agreed to read an anonymized letter for us today, something shared with permission that shows household routines and emotional care. Would you read it and then unpack it with us?
My dearest sock, the monsoon arrived early this year, and the rice fields sing again. I wanted you to know I baked the cake your mother taught me, and the neighbors said it tasted like home. The children ask about the photos you sent. They touch the corner and ask who smiles like this. When the boat comes next week, we will bring the basket you like. Please tell me when you arrive so we can meet. With love, Dara.
Listen closely. The small gestures reveal daily life. Who bakes? What the monsoon means for the fields. The way photos are handled. The evidence shows us kinship practices and material care folded into ordinary routines.
Exactly. The mention of touch, they touch the corner, is telling. It's a ritual of connection. For a historian, that line suggests how children learn family memory through objects. It also raises ethical questions. Who decides which photos are public? Which stories are safe to share online?
From an archivist's point of view, that's where consent and context matter. When digitizing a family album for shared access, we ask, who is in these images? Who gave permission? Are there sensitive events referenced? Simple metadata, names, dates, short notes, helps future generations understand context without guessing.
Let's move to memory boxes. How do families choose what to keep? Lena, what surprises you most in the objects people preserve?
Surprises are the tiny domestic things: a folded ticket, a child's drawing, a single earring kept in case, a bus receipt with a hurried note. These objects often carry layered meanings: practical, mnemonic, symbolic. The deeper story is that these small items help people maintain continuity when place and language change. That resonates. In one oral history I recorded, a mother kept a ribbon from a school uniform because the color reminded her of a teacher's kindness, and she passed that ribbon to a granddaughter when leaving Cambodia. The ribbon was more than cloth. It became a story that taught values.
When I help people arrange memory boxes, I encourage them to group by theme: food, ceremonies, travel. Use acid-free envelopes for fragile paper and small Ziplocs for tiny items, labeled with the who and when. Even a short note taped inside a box, Mom's Recipes, 1992, makes a big difference later.
Those are great hands-on tips. Now, a careful word about ethics. Our episode notes warn that sharing family materials can expose private details or revive painful memories. Lena, how do you advise families about consent, especially across generations?
Begin with conversation. Ask elders what they're comfortable sharing, and respect editorial control. Anonymization is when needed. Remove or blur names and shared images, and avoid posting documentation of trauma unless the owner explicitly consents and is supported. The research tells us consent is ongoing. Check back before public sharing and offer the elder veto power.
And consider the audience. If you're creating a community mosaic online, invite submissions with a simple consent form, a checkbox to grant permission, a field for a short caption, and an option to remain private or share with curators first. That reduces risk and keeps dignity intact.
On the technical side, low-cost digitization tools are accessible: a flatbed scanner for photos, a smartphone camera on a clean surface with even light for documents, and a free spreadsheet to track metadata: who, what, where, when. Save files with clear names: surname, first name, year, type, .jpeg. Also keep an untouched master file and a working copy for edits.
We should emphasize, label everything. A single label can prevent a century of guessing. Then, in your clinics, how do you help people who worry their elders won't want to talk?
Start small. Offer to photograph an object while the elder holds it and ask one open question: "Can you tell me about this?" Listen more than record at first. If the elder is reluctant, respect that. Sometimes the presence of a trusted neighbor or family member helps. And always offer to share copies before anything goes public.
I also advise avoiding re-traumatization. If an object may trigger painful memories, approach with care. Frame the request, provide an option to stop, and be ready to offer emotional support or pause. Community projects should have referral resources if someone needs help processing memories.
Let's offer a short, practical checklist listeners can use right now. 1. Choose a clean surface and soft light. 2. Photograph or scan the front and back of photos and documents. 3. Write a short note with names and dates. 4. Store original safely in a box labeled with context. 5. Ask for consent before sharing online.
Those 5 steps are simple but powerful. Before we close, I want each of you to share one surprising keepsake you've encountered and what it taught you.
A small train ticket wrapped in wax paper. It taught me how travel stories live in tiny things. People preserve the ticket because it marked a first journey, and that journey carried family hopes. A child's drawing folded 6 times and kept in a wallet. It taught me that ordinary gestures of caretaking become sacred objects in migration. The drawing was a bridge between generations.
For me, a single faded recipe card with a coffee stain. The beauty is in the details. The handwriting shows how taste travels and is taught. The deeper story is how memory lives in the senses.
Thank you all. To our listeners, if you take one thing away, let it be this: honor, ask, label, and protect.
Our family papers are living conversations, and when we preserve them with care, we honor the people who entrusted us with memory. Now, a quick note about sharing with our community. If you'd like to contribute, please share one non-sensitive photo or item and a short caption using the hashtag #AncientEchoesMemory. Tag Ancient Echoes and Samnang's YouTube so our team can review submissions for curated reels and a community memory mosaic.
Remember, before you post, get consent, anonymize personal details if needed, and consider tagging submissions for curator review rather than making them public immediately. Small acts of care become a shared heritage.
If listeners want more resources, check our show notes for step-by-step digitization tips, sample consent language, and links to community clinics. And if you work with elders, approach with patience and curiosity.
We'll also include simple file naming templates and a checklist you can screenshot. Preserve a master copy, share a working copy, and always keep context with each item.
Thank you, Lena and Vaughn, for sharing your wisdom. And thank you, Rachana, for bringing those vivid moments. To everyone listening, join the conversation online. Try one digitization tip this week and tell one story from your drawers.
That's where the richness lies, in the small things we keep. Until next time, listen closely to the objects around you. They have stories to tell.
This has been Ancient Echoes. Let's unlock the echoes of history together.